What is engraved in my mind is images of Bresson. Those moments are cherished by most Indians, as part of our visual history. And there also you can see his visual poetry. The silence of spaces. The richness of those experiences which were mundane, ordinary daily life affairs. And the drama of Mahatma Gandhi's death. Each time he was connected with the spirit of the person. And if the spirit of the person speaks this, then this is what it is. What was so magical in that moment? What was so peculiar and very characteristic of that experience that brings out the spirit of who they are, Because making good pictures can be anything, but who you are, when you get captured, who you are, then it's a mirror. And he was a clean mirror. India is a very difficult country for photographers. The kind of life we live and the pace we have. India is a multi-religious and multicultural society. And even the visual experience of India is so different compared to the rest of especially Europe and America, that you come here and your eyes, it's a mind-boggling experience. Your eyes go like that. What a country, what a mad country, what a wonderful country. It's like that. Cartier-Bresson was the only photographer whose work on India has instinctive and intuitive response that he, as an artist, and that's why his work still has the current and the power of what India was. Bresson was great inspiration. Somewhere I thought he loved India. He had a larger vision where he had the ability to connect with every inch of space in terms of the architecture, the heritage, the normal daily life experience.
You have a way by which the camera disappears. Now, it's very difficult for the camera to disappear. But there are moments where his camera actually disappears. Those are the points where the subject of the photograph can look completely unself-consciously into his eyes as if the camera is not there. Right? Only a great artist, but only rarely can a great artist do that the medium disappears completely. He attains that quite a few times. The other thing I think is that you have to develop deep empathy with the people you are in midst of. Unless you respect them as fellow human beings, unless you respect their way of life, unless you can identify with what they might be going through, you can't photograph them. I mean, you can, but those photographs will not last. Those photographs will not create memories. I think he found Ahmedabad to be an interesting mix of heritage and modernity. It was one of the most industrialized cities of Western India. It had, you know, large amounts of textile industry. It had migrant labor. Yeah. At the same time, the traditional craft of the area in textiles, in wood carving, in other forms, is still being practiced.
I think Cartier-Bresson had an eye and a mind which combined the two things together, which brought out the humanity of any subject that he approached. That if you are able to read between the lines, then you can understand that more so than just simply reading the words. And that's why it's so deep, and the depth is so much that, you know, photograph that you see again and again, you will discover new things in it. Cartier-Bresson liked the old city, the narrow lanes and the life in the old city with the cows and people walking around. And there's some energy when you walk around the old city. That's what probably fascinated him about Ahmedabad. Why he kept coming back to India? I think he was discovering India. That took him to read more about Hinduism. I think he wanted to uncover his own mind, to understand what he had read about India and Hinduism. And I think that's what probably brought him back to India, that he had not
yet fully understood. Even though he came from a privileged family, but his mind was much beyond that. And that's why he was able to detach that nature of privilegedness from the reality around him or from the spirit of Hinduism. And that's why I think he was able to capture really the essence of India.
Il était déjà intéressé par toutes ces religions ou métaphysiques orientales. Il pensait que, comme l'avait dit Trull Capote, qui a voyagé avec lui, disait c'est une libellule frénétique, Cartier-Bresson. Et Cartier-Bresson était quelqu'un d'extrêmement nerveux et quand on le voit photographier, il court d'un endroit à l'autre, il danse, c'est un vrai ballet. Il disait toujours qu'il avait besoin de se calmer et qu'il fallait qu'il se calme et que ses philosophies et ses religions étaient vraiment quelque chose qui lui permettait de se calmer. Cartier-Bresson, il est assez universel. D'abord, c'est vrai qu'il a beaucoup voyagé tout en détestant voyager. En fait, c'est quelqu'un qui n'aimait pas du tout partir 3 jours quelque part, 4 jours ailleurs, il refusait. Il aime s'installer dans un pays, le comprendre, s'en imprégner et après faire des images.
Independence came with partition. So there are two processes happening. It is the birth of two nations and two states happening simultaneously, Pakistan and India. But with that came transfer of people. Hindus in Pakistan felt unsafe and wanted to move to what was a Hindu majority area. Many Muslims in India felt unsafe and wanted to move. It created not only displacement, it created large-scale violence. People are displaced, families are torn asunder. What are you left with? And Cartier-Bresson then begins to capture those moments of desolation, trying to capture a sense of loss. What he captures is what I call vacantness. These are pictures of feeling completely vacant. You don't know what to feel. You're so overcome with sadness that you can't feel sad anymore. You're so overcome with anger that you can't express anger anymore. You're so overcome with sense of loss that nothing else matters. And finally, what you're left with is not knowing what to feel, not knowing how to feel. The refugee camps of those faces, that arrangement, a completely artificial arrangement of things lined up in a horizontal line. Houses are not built like that. Communities are not horizontal. In case of violence, he captures vacantness.
We had Indian photographers also photographing the transition, the partition that was happening. And this guy, HCB, was very clever guy. That he went to China when transition was happening in China. When India was getting its independence, he comes to it. He picks up the most historically important moments to be in another culture, in another country. Each one of us, we have, as creative individuals, we have certain music, certain rhythm playing in our system. He had his own music playing inside him, which gets reflected in the way he structures his frames. After all, it has to come from somewhere. Nothing comes from nowhere, you know. We say ourselves, India, the summer months are horrible. The light is so bad for photography. Oh God, you know, you can't even shoot for an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening. This man comes to India and he captures the harshness of light, how life is lived in that strong light, how the shadows fall and they create yet another kind of dreamlike experience. So he's utilized every bit of experience, good or bad, like a creative genius.
We're standing in Birla House, which was the last residence of Mahatma Gandhi. And this was the house where Cartier-Bresson met Gandhi. He actually came and photographed him when he was on a hunger strike. And he came on the afternoon of the day that he was shot. The story of Cartier-Bresson is very interesting because he's written about it. He was actually on a bicycle, and on the road outside the house, he saw people running, you know, in the opposite direction coming back to the house. So he got off the bicycle and he asked somebody that, what's happened? Why are so many people running down the road? And they said that Gandhiji has been shot. So he turned the bicycle around and he came back to the house and he managed to come in and do one photograph of the dying Gandhi. He was kind of the, the moral force which led our national movement, which was a completely peaceful national movement. It was not militant. We got the British out by passive resistance. See what happens with Cartier-Bresson, at that time he was not very well known. And it was, in a sense, Cartier-Bresson's first really big news story and his first in Life magazine. These pictures are all, in Indian history, in our popular consciousness. These are very, very important and key photographs. I think India had a very big impact on Cartier-Bresson, particularly philosophically. But I think because he got so interested in Indian philosophy, which is, to really look at the world with a sense of peace. The Indian sense of time is eternal. It's not just life and death. When you look at his work, it's that moment of time which is being captured in that long, infinite sense of time. So I think that sense of time, of understanding of the infiniteness of time, comes from India.
Among the people who expanded the notion of freedom for India, Gandhi would be the foremost people who gave us a sense of what is it to be free. Free from fear, free from hunger, freedom from oppression, of injustice, of inequality. Here is this person who's being assassinated for what he believed. There is this stunning image of India's Prime Minister then, Nehru. Who's lost a mentor, who's lost a lifelong friend, trying to put sense into it. And that is, I think, one of the most striking images that Cartier-Bresson captured.
The light has gone out of our lives, and there is darkness everywhere. And I do not quite know what to tell you and how to say it. Our beloved leader, Bapu as we called him, the father of the nation, is no more.
And finally, the body is cremated by consigning it to fire. And then the ashes are then immersed in places which are considered to be sacred. But for Gandhi, this land was sacred. So his ashes are taken not only to what is called a sacred space, they're taken across the country. You see people, offering our flowers. People are offering flower petals. Ordinary men and women standing on the route of the funeral procession, climbing trees, climbing on shoulders of people. So it gives you an idea of the kind of silence that Gandhi's assassination produced. Because here is this nation who's stunned into silence. It does not know how to respond to to the death of somebody that they held dear, somebody that they held revered, and it's a kind of a violent death of a person who had committed his life to non-violence. And India is stunned into silence. And what Cartier-Bresson captures are moments of those silence. Very, very few photographers can actually capture silence, and he manages to do that. So a good photographer can actually make the familiar unfamiliar and the unfamiliar very, very near. Because for somebody like me, Gandhi's death is unfamiliar. Right? I wasn't there. I wasn't even born. Right? But I know what happened. I can visualize that because it's become so familiar to me through those images. Similarly, these images actually make what I know every day seem unfamiliar because I have never seen that in such sharp focus. These are familiar images for somebody who lives here. It is every day, but when it comes to you framed in a particular way, in context of what you understand, the significance of a palm reader, you begin to see that as an unfamiliar image. I've never seen that isolated sometimes from the context. And that's what I think those images do for you.
In May of 1948, Cartier-Bresson traveled to Jaipur to photograph the wedding of the daughter of the Maharaja of Jaipur to the Maharaja of Baria. When he was photographing so-called royal India and its traditions that had endured for centuries, he also was careful to go out into the street and show how such events affected everyday people, including the poor. And so in a photo concerning the 39th birthday of the Maharaja of Baroda, you see the poor waiting for sugar balls to be distributed to them. Adjacent to a photograph of the Maharani of Baroda, who's wearing diamonds that once belonged to Napoleon. He was careful to always shoot both sides of a major event like that and not to only show the glamorous aspects. You are learning about an event, but you're also learning about human behavior and social practices in a certain sense. When you look at the photos that Cartier-Bresson took from his first trip to India, coming from this privileged Western background, I think it's really interesting that he chose to shoot images of India's poor. an image of a child whose ribs are showing being held by his mother, and there's a geometric parallel between the boy's ribs and a wheel just behind him. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that for Cartier-Bresson, this would have been a political gesture to go out onto the street and really try to see the fullness of India instead of just the access that his privilege would have afforded him.
First time I saw his pictures was when I was in Paris during the Festival of India in France in '86. In a very short time, we contacted him and he invited us for tea at his house. We said, we have just started a publishing company. We have seen this exhibition of yours and we would love to do a book on your work on India. So he listened to us. He's a very quiet man in many ways. And then after a few minutes, he said, I will do this under one condition. I want to come back to India. It was quite amazing thing. I traveled with him on few days. It was fascinating to watch him, watch his subject and how he would shoot. He did a lot of work during that 12 days period. He shot over 1,100 images. A couple of months later, called to say that I have now laid out the book and why don't you come and see it? And so we went around and looked at it. Many photographs looked familiar, which were there in the exhibition in Paris. And then we went around again and then found one picture taken in Ahmedabad in the riverbed in '86. So which means from 1,000 photographs, he chose one.
What you see is somebody who is familiar with a country looking at it from very fond eyes. There is fondness, there is affection there.
He was not only a great photographer, a legendary photographer, who did work in various directions also. At least for us, he's left so many directions to go on. All kinds of aspects and forms and textures. He structured them differently. Why differently? Because he was more intuitive. He had no planning here. He lived beyond planning. And that's why his images had different structure, different forms at different times. And the time that he captured had more magic about it. Every space that he captured the spirit, the essence of it.
Cartier-Bresson's first wife, Ratna Mohini, was a dancer originally from Java, and she actually trained in traditional Indian dance in Kerala before she and Cartier-Bresson started their life together in France and then traveling around the world. And in 1950, on their way back to France, they traveled through South India, and he shot a very beautiful story concerning a traditional form of dance called Kathakali. He showed the very rigorous training that the dancers underwent, as well as their preparations in terms of makeup and choreography and their relationship with their teacher.
I think the way the preparation of the dancers, very young, in their early teens, that I think fascinated him. Starting with the perfecting your body and feeling that pain of being trained so early. Not just the final dance performance, but so much happens behind the scene. I think he always saw something beyond what was visible.
I was an apprentice in this institute. I'm talking about 1964. I was 26 then. Did read about it. I did hear about him. So he was already a god figure for me. And when he came in front of me and when I'm talking to him, it was like meeting God, you know. He selected me to go along with him. But it was just wonderful to be with him. I did take a small camera with him and took a couple of pictures of his. Afterwards, I got his signature also on the picture. I learned patience, waiting for the subject to come, and don't be in a hurry to shoot. See the right moment and then shoot. It was good change among photographers. And nowadays also people shoot street photography. It's a special subject called street photography. And it is happening, something is happening. Because we have also taught them what to see, how to see. The way I got it from Bresson, I have also tried to tell my students that how to see and what to see.
I never saw him talking to any of the subjects. You still see in photographs people smiling at the camera, but also then, people knew that they were being photographed, so they want to smile. The merchant sitting on his mattress, conducting business, and then looks at him and starts smiling. But I think that fascination still continues, that people, all of a sudden sit up and say, yeah, or they make themselves proper to be photographed. I think it's just inherent in human mind.
Here is this country which is independent, which aspires to move into high technology. And it has the capacity to both design, engineer a rocket launch. At the same time, it does not have enough resources to transport these rockets into automobiles. What it's being done, that it's being transferred on a bicycle. Right? Now, that's the paradox of India. Here is this country which is struggling at certain levels to create modern infrastructure, modern transportation, provide education to all, healthcare, sanitation, water, housing, food. at the same time wants to participate in this great march of technology and science. And it's able to do one, and at the same time not able to do something which is very basic. What sets him apart from others, it's the ethics of photography that you bring. And every act of photographing we know is intrusive. It's potentially intrusive. It is potentially excluding something and including something. Now, when a photographer is self-conscious of this act, I think the ethics of photography which emerge are very different. Right? He was not here as part of the exotic oriental project, right? Because the exotic oriental project, when he came here, was already over. Britain and Europe was leaving India when he actually comes here. The people of India do not see themselves as either exotic, nor do they wish to be seen as exotic, because they want to be seen as modern individuals or communities struggling to find their place within this country, but also the world. This is a country in making when he comes here. This is a state in making, and what you need to capture is that history rather than something which is already slipped by. And I think he is intelligent enough and sensitive enough to recognize that that project is over. And what you now need to understand is, how is this country going to shape itself?
Je pense qu'il avait une grande intelligence de la littérature, du cinéma, et que tout ça compte énormément, et qu'il y a beaucoup de photographes qui ne lisent jamais. Cartier-Bresson lisait tout le temps, des choses parfois très difficiles d'ailleurs. Il ne pouvait pas partir dans le piège de l'orientalisme, qui a d'autres avantages. Je connais pas mal d'artistes intéressants parmi les orientalistes, mais c'était pas son truc. Lui, c'était plutôt peut-être la métaphysique. Et ça change tout. Moi, je peux vous dire, en regardant les photos d'un photographe, si c'est quelqu'un qui a une quelconque culture littéraire, artistique ou pas.
When he's looking at the cultural India, which is very rich and traditional, he's looking at it through the eyes of a cultured person. Yes, he is an outsider, but he's an outsider with great cultural sensitivity. So he's not coming, with an attitude of a non-engagement. His pictures are engaged. The human interest and the human contact comes across very strongly in his photographs. And that's something that influenced a lot of Indian photographers. He pushed them out of their own orientalism, which foreign magazines or books, required.
When I grew up,
I had his pictures. I had also special incline towards buying books and seeing them and trying to understand how people see India and how you should be seeing it with your eyes. When he came to India also, he tried his best to show people that this is something different. And that is what we also started seeing it. It was interesting. It was to see to believe it. I feel that he has contributed a lot in photography and to the younger generation. And for the younger generation, we are trying to help them to do something like him.
I can say that his lasting contribution for us, and for me personally, is what he captured for me, that silence, that vacantness. Because in absence of that, I would have never been able to visualize, imagine what those moments or that moment might have been. So his contribution to my conscience is immense.
Our own photographers, they were taking straightforward, simple photographs of the events unfolding, like documenting the events, and he was documenting the spirit of those events. This is the difference, that he was capturing the vision of those events and others were capturing straightforward, informative frames, photographs. And that cannot be denied. As he used to say, to have a warm heart and a cool eye. So that's probably, that explains it. And also because he was a very sensitive and wonderful human being. And that's also the reason, because if your soil is tender, then the sprouts come out more beautifully. So these were the sprouts from his soul that made a difference, you know. The purpose of photography is to capture the time we live in, because that's going to be the visual history of tomorrow. And for that, you have to have the sensitivity, responsibility, and honesty to do it with one click.